Welcome to Sober and Lit.
The podcast for women who want to get sober, stay sober, and live a life that's way more lit than it ever was with wine.
We're your hosts, Ruby and Susan, two alcohol freedom coaches keeping it real with stories, tools, and zero judgment.
Whether you're sober curious or all in, you're in the right place.
Let's feel lit, alcohol free.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the Feel It Alcohol Free podcast. I am so excited to be here today with you. Ruby and I are here with one of our coaches and mentors, Scott Pinyard. He was my coach, and Ruby's worked with him at This Naked Mind, and we're just so excited to have Scott here today. So welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Hey guys, it's so good to see both of you.
So good to see you. So I'm just going to introduce Scott and read his bio, and then we'll get to know him a little bit better. So Scott is someone who has dedicated their career to helping people create real, lasting change in their lives. He specializes in shifting mindsets, because when we change the way we think about ourselves and the world around us, everything starts to open up. For years, Scott served as the head coach at This Naked Mind, where he helped thousands of people find freedom from alcohol. And now he's supporting people in breaking free from whatever's keeping them stuck, whether it's drinking, co-parenting, or navigating a major life shift. So if you're craving change but not sure where to start, you're going to love this conversation. Yay. So Scott, you were my coach when I stopped drinking, and you were probably the most influential person that year of my journey. And
well, thank you.
Thank you. You gave me an exercise that then I give all of my clients, which is to set a timer and create awareness about what the emotions I have going on throughout the day. So set a timer like 3 or 4 times a day and just stop and go, what am I feeling? And then what am I thinking? Like, we don't know what our emotions are. We just go around life being numb, not really knowing how we feel. And it was just so impactful for me to start there. And of course, we always start, right, Ruby? We start about creating awareness as the first step in anything. So I just want to thank you.
Well, thank you. What a nice introduction. And yeah, that thinking, feeling alarm thing is, I still recommend it. It's funny because the way I coach, I don't really have like a first I do this, then I do this. I've got like general ideas, and then I like, especially in a one-on-one scenario, like really kind of follow where it goes. So I'd say, I don't know, 2/3 of the people I coach, I give that tactic to, and that's high for what I do.
Yeah.
Because I have found that exact thing that like we, and when I say we, I include myself, like just fall into our thinking. And there's like very little awareness. And, you know, when it comes to something like quitting drinking, it is amazing how our thinking can lead us right back to drinking over and over, even if we're thinking about not doing it. Still being so involved in it, being so wrapped up in it is what can bring us to a place we don't want to be.
Right. Absolutely. And so tell us a little bit about your story about quitting drinking, and then most importantly, all of the things you did after you quit drinking and your continuing learning journey.
Yeah. Well, so I quit. I just passed 8 years.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
In May. Yeah. May of
Celebration.
It was very cool. It was funny because I don't remember the date. And my wife was like, didn't your anniversary just pass? And at first I panicked, like, oh, wait, I thought not that anniversary, anniversary of quitting drinking. And I was like, yeah, I think you're right. We finally looked it up and finally figured out it had been 8 years. Wow. So I, like a lot of people, I spent years trying to quit. I spent a whole bunch of time trying to quit. I've spent a whole bunch of time trying to get away from this thing that I felt was really holding me back. And it sucked. And I did it, 8 years ago, like none of this stuff that we're all so used to existed, right? Like, I think This Naked Mind was only a book then. And like most of the programs that are out there now, like didn't exist, like none of it. And so I went on this journey and I went to the place that, we're all told to go if we want to quit drinking, which was AA. And no knock on them, but it wasn't for me. When I realized that, all of a sudden I was really sad, because I'm like, well, if this is the way I'm supposed to quit drinking and I don't like it, I guess I'm screwed, right? Like that was the way I was thinking. So I guess I gave up quitting for a while, but then I started to see Facebook posts or Facebook ads. It was like around the time that like Quit Lit started becoming really more popular. And so I started reading those books, and This Naked Mind was a huge impact on me. There's another book called The Biology of Desire, which was also a massive impact on me. And I, as time went on, just started reading more and more and more of this stuff. And with This Naked Mind in particular, it really kind of showed me that it was my thinking that was keeping me stuck, as much as it might be the addictive nature of alcohol. And this was like a revolution to me. And so I started studying as much as I could about this, about some of these ideas. And as time went on, I was able to find freedom from alcohol. And it wasn't easy. And I don't mean to make it sound easy. It took me years. You know, I often say I really wish that like the ecosystem that we're all in now, like I really wish that it existed 8 years ago, so that, you know, it wouldn't have been the struggle that it was. But it was, you know, it was a journey. And so I got through that, and I was part of an online group, and I just started helping people because I never thought I could do it. So, you know, we'd be on calls and I'd say, hey, do you want to, like, if you want, we can jump on the phone sometime and chat. And like, that's literally, I started doing that actually first with like divorce and separation stuff, because that's another big part of my story. But I also started doing it with alcohol, and it just kind of took off from there. So I started coaching, and like just, you know, started helping people quit drinking, and eventually went on to This Naked Mind, and eventually kind of grew even to really enjoy things outside of alcohol. Like when I left TNM, it was very much like, I love the idea of helping people and I wanted to get back to it. We had done such a good job, guys, of growing TNM. I was like farther and farther away from people. And that's a great role, but like, I knew I wanted to connect with folks. Again, it was something that I missed. And so I started doing that. And when I left, I started a company called Modern Co-Parent, which I mentioned that's another big part of my story. But I really love helping people find peace in co-parenting, because it's really hard. It's really hard.
It is.
And so I've been focusing on that for a few years. And then as time went on, I knew I was never going to get fully out of alcohol. It's something that I'm still really passionate about. And so I started looking at this co-parenting thing and this alcohol thing. And I'm like, wait a minute, like, this is all about change. This is all about growth. And so I started trying to boil down or distill sort of the common ideas, the common concepts in what I was seeing in my coaching in both of those areas. And through that have created some programs that are really, really, really sort of aimed at helping people change whatever it might be. And that's kind of where I'm at today. You know, I'm still doing one-on-one. I have group programs that I do. Like, I'm doing all types of stuff, and it's really great.
Yeah, that's great. I get your email, so I get to see what you're up to. And I love that idea about shifting your mindset. I mean, this is just not common knowledge that we can change the way we think, or that we even have any control over it. Or I remember when I finally got it, I was like, wait a minute. I'm the boss of my brain? What? I'm the boss, you know, instead of just like feeling like you're being dragged around by these thoughts and tossed around like, you know, a boat on the waves, you know. Yeah, but it was sort of revolutionary. And like, especially if you're kind of a control freak person, you're like, the ultimate control. I can control my brain, you know, although it's not that easy. I mean, it takes practice a little bit. So.
I remember, Scott, that you were the first person to introduce me to all these concepts as well. You were my coach for coach training. And it was, that's right. Yeah. And I remember that first coach training session, and you taught us the ACT technique. And I remember I was so scared and having all these negative thoughts. And in just 5 minutes, you can just shift your thinking, shift your feelings, and it's amazing. So you have had such an important role in my journey as well. So I just want to thank you too. Yeah.
Thank you guys. Wow, I got to come on the show more often. This is good.
It is amazing how the result is always goes back to the thought. Like the thought, I always say your thoughts create your feelings, that create your actions, that create your results. And if you take that in line and go back and look at the result and look at your thought, you can go, yep, there's a through line right there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then you just make one little tweak to the thought, and then it creates a different feeling, and then it creates different behavior and a different result. And it's like magic.
Yeah.
It is. It's a magic trick. Some people are more feeling people, I've started to notice, in their feelings than create their thoughts, which then create. So it's definitely a loop, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of my work over the last few years has been more in line with how we relate to our thoughts. Right. Mm-hmm. So like what we were talking about before, that thinking, feeling alarm is kind of recognizing that we are not our thoughts and that we don't need to believe them. We don't even need to engage with them. And it starts to get a little spiritual and woo-woo, which is maybe a surprise to you guys, because I was like never that way at TNM. But like as time's gone on, I've kind of moved in that direction a little bit. It starts to get that way. But the reality is that like, and this is something I've seen over and over in people trying to make any sort of change, especially a difficult change, especially something, addictive like alcohol or nicotine, is how we understand our thinking, or how we understand what our thinking is, or understanding that it is, quote unquote, just a thought. Now that can sound dismissive, and I don't mean it to, but the more people start to understand that interplay, the better. And so like in my program Shift, I kind of have 3 different layers, right? Like I do one layer that is what I call thought work, which is just changing thoughts, right? So like changing state. If you're having a bad day, like go move around, like that sort of stuff, which is stuff we all know, but it's so easy to forget, right? So I do sort of that thought work. And then we go a little bit deeper into what I call story, which is, how we see the world. And so we all have these stories because our brains want to make sense of the world. And so it's about how to work with that, how to identify stories that actually don't really work for us, so that might be causing us pain, and then what to do about it. And then I have this section that I've been adding on to, and I'm actually going to launch a new course on it shortly called Beyond Thought, which is this space where we start to look a little bit more at what thought and consciousness actually is and understand it from a different angle. Because once you do that, the choices you can make are way more numerous than they are when you're just focused on a single thought, like should I drink or should I not drink? When we can start to see what that fight even is, what's going on, like that changes so much. And it's been such a fun place to explore.
Can I ask, who are you learning this from, or are you learning it, like discovering it on your own, or what are you reading? Because I'm geeking out on all kind of like law of attraction, and then I went into Michael Singer's work, and I'm just like I keep reading and reading and reading, and I'm on that same trajectory, Scott. I love it.
I mean, Michael Singer has been a huge influence on me. I really started thinking a lot about consciousness and stuff too. So Sam Harris's Waking Up was a big one for me. There's a guy named Rupert Spira who wrote about consciousness as well as non-duality. I've read a lot of his stuff, but yeah, it's really so I guess it's a combination of what you might call like spiritual or like mystical style stuff, but that is still somewhat grounded. Like I haven't gone full woo yet. Maybe someday I will.
Partial woo.
Yeah,
I'm partial woo. Yeah, I'll
a little bit.
Partial woo.
Where I am particularly interested is where like science and some of these philosophies intersect. Annika Harris is actually Sam Harris's wife, just wrote a book. I think it's called Lights On. It's just an audiobook. And so she studies neuroscience, and she's not a neuroscientist. I think she's a layperson that studies. I can't remember the details. Anyway, the book's fantastic. And it talks about, it's very heavy science, but it talks about how, actual like research is sort of lining up with the way that some people have sort of put together ideas around consciousness. And so that's been absolutely fascinating to me. And so it's all of that stuff where you start to kind of step back, and it started to become incredibly clear to me. And this might sound, to someone who's stuck, I'm sorry if this sounds like, what are you talking about? But it almost a little bit becomes a game when you really start to see what your thinking really is, and how you can, what I call, fall into it, right? So like if an alcohol craving comes up, you can fall into that, and you can do the fight. You can do the angel and the devil dance on your shoulders, whole 9 yards, right? Or you can see it for what it is, and you can see that it is a passing thought. And so there's lots of different sort of areas that this covers, but yeah, so there's a few resources for you, Ruby. If I think of any others, I'll email you too.
Yeah, no, I love this.
So this may sound like a really dumb question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What is consciousness? Like, I mean, I get it. Like, we're conscious, we're here. Or can you give me an example of this work?
Did you just ask me what is consciousness? Like what?
No, like what's the meaning of life, Scott? Yeah, thank you. I know that's what this work is, right? working this hard. Like, give me an example for people who are like, this is too woo for me. Like, I don't even know what these people are saying.
So when I talk about, like, from a scientific standpoint, what is consciousness? The question as I see it, and this is maybe from a materialistic point of view. So my woo friends, please hold on. I'll get there in a minute. But the question is, like, how is it that this particular arrangement of cells and neurons gives rise to what we would think is a conscious experience? So I think it was David Chalmers that I believe it was. I might be misquoting this, but where he talked about when we talk about something being consciousness or being conscious, we're talking about there being something to be like that thing. In other words, there's some sort of experience.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And so from a neuroscience point of view, the question is, like, how does that happen? How does it happen? And we don't know, which is crazy to me.
Right.
Like, and I love being, like, right on the edge of things like that. So that is sort of one of the questions that really inspires me, is like, what is this? And so books like Waking Up, I'm reading another book called Being You by Neil Seth. I think that's his name, who, he's a neuroscience. And so he talks about sort of the history of understanding what consciousness actually is, and the work, the research, the theories, both, current and discarded, of, like, what's actually going on. To me, that's really fascinating.
Yeah.
And I find that that's at the center of this question of change, because that's what the whole thing is. Right? Like, we are conscious beings, and the reason change is difficult for us is because of our consciousness, because of our thinking, because of our emotions, because of our experience. So to me, it's a really interesting, sort of intersection of that. And then from the wooey side, right, is a little bit more of where we go beyond where science is really kind of leading us right now, and different ideas and concepts around it. And so obviously Michael Singer is, just fantastic. I love this guy. I love the works of Sid Banks and Rupert Spira. And, like, there's so many people that, like, that kind of influence my thinking on that side of things. And so for me, learning all of this different stuff, thinking about this different stuff, having my own take on it, has made my coaching conversations potentially much deeper. Now, it's true, like, kind of as you point out, Susan, some people don't want to go there. Some people are like, what the hell are you talking about? And that's fine. That's totally fine. But what I've found is, like, the more of this stuff I read, the more I learn, the more I explore this, the more I can relate to people in a new way and help move something deeper. Right.
Yes.
So, like, this is about getting out of, like, the surface level stuff and really kind of addressing something deeper.
Yeah. Scott, I'm on the exact same trajectory that you're talking about. And it's really cool. And it's almost when I'm working with people for, like, over a year to 2 years, where we just go deeper and deeper and deeper. And it's so cool. And I'm having these conversations with some of my clients that are just, like, mind blowing and really cool. And it's because of reading all this stuff and then putting it all together. But when you asked about consciousness, Susan, the thought that came to me was, the quote, something like, we are not our thoughts. We are the one listening, something like that. Do you know that? Yeah. That's, to me, like, and then when I said that to my son, I don't know if I ever told you this, Scott, but my son's a neuroscience major. And I told him that quote, and he's like, no. And I was like, well, let's think about it. And we would debate it. And it is a little woo, but it's because if you're a neuroscience major, it's more like, it's not science, right? Like, you can't prove you are the one. Like, there's all this stuff you can't prove, but you can't not prove it. So it's so fun. I love it. It's like a game. Yeah. I love that, Scott.
So I've been doing more somatic work, but I explain it, and I'm a Christian. So sometimes I want to take a spiritual perspective that I sometimes feel is actually backed up by the Bible as well. But also the fact that we are the only animal that has a prefrontal cortex, so we can think about our thinking.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so how amazing that is that And so that's how I explain it to clients. We can think about our thinking. So it's like we have our lower brain, our subconscious, and our limbic brain, and then our prefrontal cortex, and we want our prefrontal cortex to be in charge. But a lot of times it's not. It's like flapping in the breeze, and our subconscious is running the show. And so and then we need these somatic practices to calm our nervous system, to get our brain back on. And then we can start finding out, what is the story? I love when you said, what's the story underneath, and those are the habit loops. And I mean, I love woo too, because I think there is a spiritual aspect to this drinking journey. Everybody talks about there's just one day it clicks, and it's different for everybody. And then one day you just are free from alcohol. And it's just, and I don't remember the day. Like I can't pinpoint, oh, it clicked, for me this day, but it's a gradual process. But then
joy is in the journey.
Well, like I didn't grow up a Christian. So there was a point in my life when when somebody told me about it and And then one day then I had a spiritual experience where I believed. And in some ways, and they call that a conversion experience, but when I was released from drinking, it felt like the same thing. It was like I was blind, and then all of a sudden I could see. Absolutely. That I did not want to have alcohol. I could see all the benefits of not drinking, and it was just, it was like a spiritual experience in a small way.
Probably like black and white to Technicolor. It's like life in black and white, and then it's in Technicolor. I like that one too.
Yeah. Well, I think, this idea of like what you're kind of leading to here, Susan, and like this like realization is kind of what I'm talking about. It's like this understanding. Like I talk to people often who are like, I know all the things, like I've read all the books, I've done all the exercises. And while I understand that, that's not how I've seen people actually change. Like when I step back, like all of that stuff is an aid of it. And I don't mean to like downplay it at all. Like it's important. It's important to learn all these things and understand this stuff. And it changes your perspective. And I think it probably speeds up the process, if not starts it all over. But like the people that I find, over time that are long-term successful are people that change the way they think about themselves. Change the way they think about their experience in whatever way that might be. Right. So for some people, it certainly is religious. For some people, it's, I don't know, philosophical, but it's something that allows us to see things differently, which then makes new choices and new directions available to us that previously weren't. Right. And to me, that's like so exciting because, as someone who likes to help people change and likes to help people see that things are possible that they never thought were possible, right? That likes to help people see that there's an opportunity to live the sort of life they want to live. And I don't mean it from a like work hard and get there standpoint, but I mean it from a deeper perspective standpoint. It's amazing that we can do this. Like it's really incredible.
I know. It's like divine work. And I would say more spiritual than religious. You know what I mean? Because I still will read all the woo books because I see that it's all the same in some ways. You know what I mean? It's spirituality. It's that energy, it's that power of belief, right? You really do have to believe that you can change before any change is possible. And sometimes that's our work, right? With people.
Well, that's why I think groups are so important and podcasts are important and like all of this stuff that's out there, right? Like all of the people's stories that are out there, what you guys are doing with your podcast, and there's so many places where you can see over and over and over, and we need to see it over and over and over and over. We need to see that it's possible before we can even begin to believe, because for so many of us, I know this was the case for me, I was essentially lying to myself for long enough. I didn't believe myself anymore. So I didn't believe, I didn't believe in myself. So I didn't believe that I could change. And that's a level of despair that is horrific. And you're right. It is a big part of our work is helping people, piece by piece, step by step, get to the place where they can see even to be able to see this could be possible for me. It's a lot of work to get there.
It is. I think that's the main work. I was telling a client today, I'm like, oh my gosh, because she was telling me all this work she did in between our sessions. And I was just like, I'm the coach. I'm running along the side of the basketball field. You're out there playing, but you did 1 million free throws between our last two sessions. And that's when the clients are starting to do, well, I did this and I did that. And I did thought turnaround, and here are all my new sticky notes about myself. And I've got this plan for my next event. And I'm just okay, whoa, Yeah. But that's when it, you see them take off. And then it's just whoa, then we can go, like you said, deeper. It's so exciting. So exciting. And anybody, it's available to everyone. Would you say? If you want it, it's available to everyone. Yeah.
And there's so much hope.
I'm nope, only certain people can do this.
There's a quiz here. If you pass the quiz, then you can do it. No, but that's the thing. But again, like you said, you didn't feel like you could do it. I didn't know if I could do it. I hated myself.
Yes.
You know, I was in a deep, dark hole too. But I think hope is that piece, that spark, right? A little bit of hope is needed to get people started. Or hope or trust in maybe your coach, right? Trust that you're going to be guided and just trust in the process. And I know it's hard. I've been there, but we really can change everything, like you say, Scott. Yeah.
It's possible. And the more I coach and the deeper I kind of go with this stuff, like that's the thing at the end of the day that like from every, you know, discovery call I have to, you know, just everything that I do is centered around the idea that like you can make this shift. I've just seen too many people do it to think that that's impossible, you know, and it could be something, you know, like quitting drinking. And I'm not even talking about, and I don't love kind of getting too like overly positive about this. Like I'm not talking about like becoming a billionaire and owning the world. I mean, just things that we want to do in our lives, like have a better relationship, have a better relationship with ourselves, right? Quit drinking, quit smoking, lose weight, whatever it is, just be happier. Like all of that is possible. Like it is absolutely 100% possible. And the problem is that over and over, we've been, you know, I think, well, I'll put it this way. We've let ourselves down over and over to the point where we think it's not possible. And there are definitely people there who are willing to help us think it's not possible unless you have my thing, unless you have my book or you have whatever. Right? And the thing that I really want people to understand is it is inside them and has been the whole time.
I always say that.
I love that. All the wisdom
everything
is inside you.
Yep. You have the answers inside, and this is an inside job. And you all have to do the work. We all, you know, do the work. But this is the best work you can ever do because you just feel better overall, feel better every day overall. It's priceless. It truly is priceless.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and it doesn't end though. Like that's the thing for me is that like, I'm still on this journey. Like I'm still in that, you know, to get to sort of talk about like, why are we here? Like one of my favorite quotes is Carl Sagan saying, we are the universe getting to know itself. And so the more that I learn about myself and the more that I learn about experience and the more I explore this stuff for myself, like the more I fulfill that statement, I suppose, right? Like the more I learn about the universe. And that to me is like, that's really inspiring. Like that's something that keeps me going for sure.
Do you have like a quick story to illuminate the power of this shift, either in your life or a client's life that, you know, wouldn't mind you sharing? You don't have to say their name, but I would just love the description of like the change that we're talking about here.
So I had someone who did one of my shift courses came to me and she wasn't a drinker. That wasn't her problem. She didn't really have anything major that she wanted to change other than she'd been very depressed for years. I'm talking like crying multiple times a week. And it was a few years after the pandemic. And she lost both her mom and her brother during this. And, you know, so we spent some time kind of talking about that because that's where it seemed that the pain seemed to center. And when I did this version of Shift, I had group calls and one-on-one calls. So I was on like a one-on-one call with her and I just saw it and we ran at it. She was very upset and we started talking about it and we started talking about why. And we started to uncover the fact that she had a story that serving people is how she showed that she loved them. Right. So like when she was younger, I mean, this lady's so awesome too. I wish I could tell you more about her. I can't, but she's just incredible. Take my word for it. But she, you know, when she was younger, that was how she showed up, right? She was there. She was, you know, doing things. And then, you know, toward the end for her mom and her brother, like they were sick and she was showing up to help them, to care for them. But then when they passed away, what was there to do?
Right.
And she started to recognize that this story, the thing she could do to show she loved them was mourn. And so that's what she did for years. And all of a sudden on this call, she realized that, you know, we kind of tore the story apart and she realized that it wasn't true, that she doesn't need to do that to show that she loved them. And like that, it just lifted.
Boom. Yeah. Things like that can happen. I've witnessed it. It's amazing. What a great story.
Yeah. And so I think starting to understand how our stories impact us. And there was a lot of work that went up into that. The leaving happened, immediately, but like understanding why she thought that way and like how it's benefited her and all of that. Like that's work I do in my shift program to like help people get a sense of it so that they can see it. Because what I've found over and over is when you see it and you're like, oh, this is what I'm thinking. And when it doesn't fit your logical view of the world now, it just goes away. Now, like 99% of stories don't do that, unfortunately. Like I wish that was the case. A lot of times it's more of a gradual process, but that sort of encapsulates like where people get to, in doing this work and sort of changing things. You can change the way everything feels.
Wow. That is very powerful. That's very amazing.
Powerful. Well, I've had so much fun talking with Scott, but okay. So Scott, we always end our podcast episodes with what are you doing to feel lit, alcohol free in your life? And congratulations on 8 years alcohol free.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, a lot of this work we talked about does it, but like in terms of outside of this, you can see there's a bunch of instruments behind me. Mm-hmm. I've been playing so much music, and that is the thing for me that has been incredible. So like over the last about 5 years ago, I started learning the banjo, and I really enjoy that. And over the last year and a half or so, I've been playing the bass, and it's just like, I guess I should say my family and blah, blah, blah. They make me happy too. So get that in there.
Blah, blah, blah.
In terms of like something I'm doing for myself, like this really does. It really
lights a fire.
I don't know. It adds color to my life in a way. That's really amazing.
I love that. So banjo, do you play in a band or banjo and bass? You just play yourself, play along with
myself. When I was in college, there's a saxophone back there too. You can probably
see that. Yeah.
I played that in high school. I still play a little bit. And I was in some swing bands when I lived in Minneapolis. But other than that, no, it's very much a solo project for now. I mean, we'll see what happens, as I have more and more time. Yeah. Maybe. You never know.
That's so fun. What do you love about playing bass? My husband plays bass, but it's just so cool to get that bass line and it's funky.
There's that. And it's the, cause it's not always hard. I mean, obviously there are plenty of difficult songs, but like there is something about the richness that it adds that I really, really enjoy. And I like the sort of supporting element of it. And so I guess that's really why I like it. I mean, and playing along with songs is one of my favorite things to do because it feels good to be like that support, for the stuff that's
the bass is what always gets into my chest and in my head. Like it's like this, it's the vibration. That's why I love the bass so much.
As an acoustical engineer, which I didn't even touch on that's my background is in engineering. Yes, that is exactly what happens.
I love it. That's so cool. And you would be a bass player because that's like who you are. You're like this support. That's who you were to me. Like this
I like that.
Strong support in my life.
You're the bass.
The bass.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Scott.
Thank you guys for having me. This was great. It was really fun.
Thanks so much for listening to the Sober and Lit podcast.
If you enjoyed this episode, we would love it if you would subscribe, rate, and review. It really helps get the word out.
And remember, do something today to help you feel lit.
See you next week.